All right, people, here we go. Another crazy-ass week. Still haven't figured out who the Speaker of the House is. Apparently, some people are giving up, and some people are voting for people that aren't even wanting to be there. All sorts of fun stuff. We're Almost Agreement at gmail.com. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. While you're there, check out the cool different stuff that we got going on in there. County and state and federal stuff is already full swing, so we'll chat some of that. I'm sure early voting has started for this city race that nobody's going to vote for, so don't worry about it. You shouldn't vote either. But anyway, we're Almost Agreement. We're going to go to our favorite podcast providers and like and friend and follow and share there. And then go to our other stuff and do the follows and things like that. So anyway, help us get the word out. We'll talk to you guys soon. Hey, buddy.
Hey.
How's it going?
Not too bad. Tired.
Yeah, me too. It's been a long fucking week. I had a big computer crazy thing, and anyway, I don't want to talk about it. I'm tired of it. I'm mad at it. It's still going to be a problem tomorrow, so yeah.
Yeah, computers are supposed to make our lives easier, but I don't know about that.
Well, I can't remember who told me who I don't know who to appropriately credit with this quote, but it's computers are only smart as the people that use them.
Nah.
So I have a lot of very smart computers that don't work very smartly.
It's true.
And yes, that is half a knock on myself. So anyway,
only half.
I want to start right here. Mr. Kennedy was in town last Saturday.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
So we didn't hear. I didn't see get the announcement for it until it's Sunday. Excuse me. I didn't get the announcement until it's on Saturday. I would have mentioned it on the show last week. Apparently, a decent crowd showed up. I don't remember how much it is. It was at the Relics down in Central, right across from our place. It's like a 500-person venue. So Scott went and covered it, and he said it was it was fairly full.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a couple hundred people showed up. I did not know that's what he looked like. I'd never seen a picture of him. Just heard him talk on podcasts and stuff, and I've heard him.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He sounds like he's 90. He's got a really shaky voice, and I feel bad because it might be like a genetics or maybe a disease or something like that is causing it. But the end of the story is he sounds like an old man. He kind of has a little bit of a shaky thing to him.
Well, his dad sounded kind of similar. I heard listened to a podcast it was talking a little bit about his father and his death. It was kind of interesting. But.
I mean, I'm all for it. I love it. I love how much the partisan punditship have lost their fucking minds over him running independent.
Yeah.
Like all the Republicans, all the talking heads on the Republican side loved him when he was going to primary challenge Joe. But now as soon as he's going independent, they're like, well, shit. He'll actually steal some votes from or they fear that he'll actually steal some votes from Trump, right. So we don't like him anymore.
So a story about somebody else running for the Democratic ticket, but I don't know who it was.
Marianne Williamson?
No.
Oh, the Young Turks guy.
Oh, is that who it is?
Yeah, which it's debatable on whether he can actually eligibly run for president because he is not a natural-born citizen.
Huh.
He is naturalized, but he was not born in the United States. So there's some argument on whether what naturalized actually means technically, legally, or whatever, on whether that counts. But yes, the dude that started the Young Turks. Is that, am I right?
Oh, I was trying to find it. Let's see here. There's just too many stories in the politics subsection of a news site.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, I don't know. Like what's funny to me is that the Republicans are freaking out because he's going to steal Trump votes because he's an anti-vaxxer, a Fauci hater. That's about it. Like those are the two big issues that him and Trump align on, for lack of a better word. Which, to be honest, I mean, it's not fair to call Trump an anti-vaxxer. He greenlit the thing. I mean, how is he an anti-vaxxer? He was the one that made it possible to get out on the market. So that never made sense to me. But, well, I guess it does make sense to me on how good of an actual politician Donald Trump truly is. Is that he literally could be the guy that signed the piece of paper saying, let's make this thing, but be friendly to the people, but somehow be on the side of the people who are against the thing that he just signed off of. I think that's amazing. Like, literally amazing. Awesome in the truest sense of the term. But I mean, he's a fucking environmental lawyer. That's apparently what his non-politics career has always been. So he's certainly a liberal in the environment's sense of the conversation. I just find it fascinating that, like, the reality is, and they're not wrong, that the voting populace cares so little about anything except one or two issues, and those one or two issues that RFK Jr.'s got that align with the Trump ones are the one that freaks out the people that want Trump to win.
It's perception.
I mean, it is, but it's just it's. I find it really kind of pathetic.
Yeah.
From our end, from our end, and from media end, from media's end for not taking a second. I don't know. I don't know whose fault it is. Like, I can't blame. Like, there's a part of me, you can't blame the politician. You can't blame the machine, the people that play the game, politician side of it, because this is how you win the game.
There's got to be people that just have their chief of the. I can't remember what their title would be. The head of the campaign, basically.
Oh, the
campaign chair.
Campaign.
Yeah, whatever.
President.
Their main person, like,
Yeah, whatever. You're right.
that's the one that's like, talking to all the different news outlets and approving, what flyers go out, blah blah blah. Kind of pigeonholing a quote unquote message on whatever avenue they're trying to advertise their candidate for.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of that has sort of the candidate themselves has little choice over it. They're like,
I mean, I think
hey, let's use this picture of you from this. And I'm like, okay, fine. Like, I'll take this sound bit of you from last year saying this. Like, okay, whatever.
There's got to be. I would hope at least, and you might not be wrong, but I would hope at least, like, on the broad strokes of this is what our campaign is, this is our top issues that we're going to push on. I would hope that comes out of the actual candidate itself. Now, on the details, on the font we're going to use on the flyer, sure, the candidate doesn't pay that much attention to those details, but at least it's going to be like, I'm running on smaller government, I'm running on lowering taxes or something like that. I have to imagine the candidate has final say on those. Some say about on actual policy top level issues.
I'd say
how it's executed. I could see that kind of being offloaded.
So I could see, like, if they were doing like a little sound bit, they would probably give them a list of like 10 or 15 different things. They're like, hey, which one of these do you want to say?
I mean, yeah, like
we've done our
news
research.
Station wants your response to this, and here's some stuff that we think you could say in reply. Sure,
yeah,
I'd say they prep them for that, but at the end of the day, it's still going to like that list of replies. I would hope are theoretically like the mission statement of a company or a nonprofit, or the mission statement is to help house the homeless or whatever it is. All the little details on how you do it. That's the different work that you do, but it all comes back to does it follow the mission statement? I would have to assume that the candidate themselves are part of the mission statement process.
Well, I mean, as much as I don't like bringing up the former president, but I highly doubt that he was the one that came up with "Make America Great Again."
Maybe, and again, that's a fucking slogan. That's not that's not a mission statement. That's a slogan.
Well, I'm not saying it was a mission statement. I'm talking about just like the different ins and outs of the campaign of how you advertise someone.
Sure. I'm agreeing with you that okay. As long as it's inside we do this all the time. It drives me nuts. My assertion is that the campaign is the candidate themselves in the campaign process has at least oversight on what the theme, for lack of a better word, is. Now the specifics, whether it's a mailer here or a email blast that goes over here, and like the specifics that go on there, as long as they're inside the theme, I think the candidate lets it slide. Like it's just like you're going to send out an email blast to a bunch of people who signed up for a newsletter that has something to do with taxes. Blast them all with my tax plan so that they know how I stand on taxes. They may not. I mean, they wouldn't even actually say do or don't do. I guess that's.
See, I think it even some of that stuff that kind of like molds their campaign advisor. I guess that's.
I say that, and I say all that, and then as soon as you start to push back, I forget the fact that I've met and spoken to Eric Whiter. and met and spoken to a number of candidates that he has been campaign manager for, or whatever the job title is that we can't think of. And
Just a campaign advisor.
there's at least a couple of them that don't have their own brain in their head. It's his brain that goes through their
Right.
like his brain is in their head, and they open their mouth and his words come out.
I think of stuff like brought up like tax policy. Like I'm sure he's probably talked to a couple like economists to kind of like hone down, or maybe even like give him a better idea of. Maybe he just kind of latches onto like, oh, I like that guy's idea. All right, that's going to be my tax plan.
Yeah, I mean, but again, I think it's still. I think it's like if we're going to do like I like to do and look at it in a company format, a manager or a manager or the business owner kind of sets the idea, sets the theme, sets all the parts and pieces, and then hands off the duties to all the people to execute the big broad plan. The little, the little details, he can't do them all. He or she couldn't do them all by themselves anyway, even if they wanted to. Can't be part of every single little decision. What font are we using? What size flyer?
Obviously not that bullshit. Yeah, I know.
But, yeah, I would. But yeah, again, I don't know. I'm probably I don't know what the candidate actually does. I don't know what the elected official actually does, and what they think or what they do. They just say what they think it's going to get them elected or get them the donation they need or whatever they have to do. At least on the federal level, since we're talking about RFK, where we started, at least on the federal level. And I guess I say that, and I catch myself at the same time. Burchett, being one of the guys that threw this whole fucking House thing under the bus, is one of the 8 that voted McCarthy out. At least his statement on it is consistent with him over time. He's always been a budget hawk. That's always who he's been. He's always been like, we're spending too much money, we're taking too much money. I don't want to he's like, we can't. He won't vote and pass he won't vote to pass a budget that isn't balanced.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing for him. And so his issue with McCarthy is that he went to the Democrats and got enough votes together to get this continuing resolution through.
Right.
And that was a betrayal to Burchett's deficit hawk sensibilities. And Burchett isn't the type that's going to start the fight, but if the fight's out there in front of him, he's going to put his piece in because that's an issue to him.
Yeah. I mean, we were paying attention to it whenever he was the Knox County mayor. I don't know if he was much of a budget hawk when he was the county mayor. Yeah.
I'm sure. I mean, well, he didn't raise taxes while he was here. We haven't raised taxes in Knox County since the 80s or 90s or some crazy shit like that. The effective tax rate is the lowest it's been on record. For whatever that means.
Goody.
Yeah. On that, in taxes in Knox County wide and stuff, this new ambulance contract, there, I guess at the commission workshop or whatever this week, a consultant who had come in, who the county had hired to come in and help them sift through the process of selecting a new whatever. It is likely, there's actually 2 cool things about it that I learned today. It is likely that the county, this is not the cool part per se, but that it is likely that the county will have to actually spend money on the ambulatory services to help. They're going to have to subsidize these ambulance companies, or they're not going to be able to do it. Is essentially what the consultant was talking about. But the other thing is kind of neat, and so the consultant was looking at what's like. So AMR, who is the current contract, was Rural Metro, and then AMR bought them and stuff like that. And so like the last 3 times it's come up, they've just continued the contract. And so like legally speaking, the law department's like, you can't keep continuing this contract. I mean, this contract that exists is barely functional anyway, because the original contract was with Rural Metro, and then Rural Metro's been bought, and then that company did something, and like it's just all the weird little corporate merger separation things that have kind of happened over time. And so it's like this contract is flimsy at best where it sits now, so we have to do a new fresh contract.
So is there still a Rural Metro at all?
The fire side is, but not in ambulatory services. AMR bought out their ambulance side.
Okay.
Which I don't know how that would affect if I was a Rural Metro member, whether it would still get ambulatory services or it's just fire service now.
I think it was always just fire service.
Oh, they did
what
both.
You pay for.
It was both.
Huh. I always thought it was just for fire department.
Yeah, because when I was pitching my fit and had my fight with them, one of the things that the lady told me is like, you might as well just go sign up or whatever, because then we won't have this issue again. And if you ever need to get taken to the hospital for something, you don't have to pay for your ambulance. This was 10 years ago, 8 years ago, mind you. But she basically said if you had signed up for rural metro, you wouldn't have to pay for an ambulance. You wouldn't have to pay for these fire trucks showing up, and if you ever need it, you never have to pay for an ambulance. But it was a while ago. That may have changed since then. But at the time, that's true. But the cool thing that this consultant came back with that I think was super interesting and super smart is so the old contract is 17 minutes period. Anywhere in the county, that you have to, if somebody calls 911 and you send an ambulance out, you have to be at that person within 17 minutes of the call. That's the contract. 17 minutes of the call, 90% of the time, which they've been failing at miserably constantly over time. They've not been hitting those numbers, whatever. But the guy was like, well, why don't you guys do something where you have there's a map of it. If you go, you can go look up a map. Compass did a story on it and published a picture of the map. So basically they did an extended version of KPD's redistricting, where there's a center and an east and a west district. And so the center district, which is downtown, the more densely populated portions of Knox County, that kind of stuff, that has a 10-minute pickup time or a 7-minute pickup time. And then in the two more rural parts of the county, what little rural there is left, still have that 17-minute pickup time. And so like a lot of people are like, well, I don't want to wait 10 more minutes just because I live out here.
Right.
And the guy was like, the reality of it is that in the old contract, they could just hang out downtown and pick everybody up in 2 or 3 minutes because they only have to average the old contract. They only had to average 17 minutes. Uh-huh. So they could be 45 minutes to you, but they do 10 5-minute ones and their average of 17 is still going to get there.
Right.
And so you're actually guaranteed faster service this way because they can't fudge it by doing a bunch of quick picks, which still doesn't matter because they got to get them out and into the hospital.
So the random times I was seeing, they seem to be kind of spread out. And I would see him kind of do almost kind of like the highway, like traffic response people and like, police as well. You'll just kind of randomly see them, 10, 15 minutes apart. Occasionally you see them talking together, but you see the ambulances kind of
I'd be curious to know
apart.
what their kind of general rule is if you're not on call, But I'm guessing that's part of what this regional thing is too. If you're not on call and you're in the West region for the night,
should have like a little beeper that goes off that tells you you're in too close a proximity to another ambulance. Like somebody's got to back up.
You ought not be this close together. Just don't go to Salmon. Is it Sam and Andy's over there on Broadway? If you don't want to, if you don't want to see too many cops too close together, don't go to that Sam and Andy's.
Okay.
Or Gus's Grill. I don't remember what it is. It's one right in front of that Food City, right at 640.
Yeah, I don't know.
KPD loves that place. So does the sheriff's office. Like every time I'm in that parking lot, there's at least like 5 or 8 cruisers. Sometimes I've been in there and there's like 20, 25 cruisers hanging out.
Fun.
Yeah. But it's also right there on Broadway, which is not the nicest part of town either. So it's like, well, having cops around doesn't fix it.
Close to the news center.
It is close to the news center, but it's been that way since before.
And a whole bunch of interstate interchanges.
Yeah. I just think I think that's just a hang for those guys, whether it's on or off duty.
Yeah.
And so I think what it is, you got a bunch of guys on and off duty that are hanging out there having lunch or whatever, and it's their clubhouse, for lack of a better word. It's my assumption. I don't know. I could have asked Chief Noel about it when I had him, but I didn't.
Maybe they get half off and they're like, fuck yeah, I'll take advantage of this.
Yeah. That's that places do such things. So anyway, the ambulance service, I don't know. It's likely that there's going to have to be some amount of budget set aside from Knox County to help subsidize whoever the new ambulance contract is.
I don't think that's unheard of, but don't really know how other cities kind of do their own.
Yeah. Well, and I was thinking about it too, but like City of Knoxville has a fire department, pays for the fire department. It's a 100% subsidized entity.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not really subsidized because it is an entity of the city, but whatever. But the city doesn't have ambulatory service. But it's theoretical. You could theoretically do it the same way.
I thought I'd seen ambulance-shaped things from the city of Knoxville, but maybe it's a part of like the rescue squad and whatnot.
Maybe. Yeah, no, the city of the ambulances are for county at large. They're like the total county, including city. Because that's something that I'd be interested. Like I'd be curious about too. It's like, so okay, if we're subsidizing this thing, does the county pay it only, or does the city kick in a portion? How's that work? Because I think it would. I mean, I don't know. You're all county residents, so I guess it's fair if the county pays for all of it. But I don't know. Just curious. Just a thought to throw out there.
Raise sales tax. already high enough. Who's going to know?
Yeah. I mean, you can only legally raise it 0.5%.
Well, that helps them because the higher it is, the more it goes up with that that percentage is that much more.
Well, the state is, well, no, the state's 7 or whatever, and then the local option here is 2.25, but the state max in local option is 2.5 or 2.75. So you could get up to, with local sales tax, you could get up to 9.75. That's the maximum sales tax allowed in the state of Tennessee, unless you're a special category item like hemp or liquor or whatever, tobacco.
We should start adding a tourism tax like Sevierville does. We got the Women's National Basketball Hall of Fame.
What is it? Like how? What's it like? Is it a sales tax?
Yeah, it's like an added like 2%. Like Pigeon Forge, I'm pretty sure does it. It's like
no.
I think
why?
it's like a tourism tax or something.
Where would it be? Would it have to be like? Hold on a sec. What? Oh, yay! Sorry about that. That's exciting news. We had a missing cat.
Yeah.
A couple of days. Which usually she does that where she runs off for a couple of days. That makes me happy. I was starting to worry about her. She was out in the rain last night.
No. Yeah, I remember a week or two ago she was missing for a day.
Anywho.
What do they call it? Like I want to say it's like an added like 1 or 2%.
But it's only like right there on the main drag. It's not the whole county.
I want to say it's part of like the city itself, like of Pigeon Forge.
Right. I don't know. I'm not okay with that. Because I mean, is that...
It was a joke.
I mean, we already do a tourism tax in the hotels. We have a hotel tax that's basically targeted tourists. I mean, who stays in hotels that isn't a tourist of some sort?
Said it many times. We got so many fucking hotels. I don't know what the hell's going on.
And we don't have enough, apparently.
What?
I don't know. That's always been one of those things that they talk about. Like, City of Knoxville doesn't have enough hotels and parking downtown.
Odd.
It's always one of the things. Talk about that shit all the time.
I mean, we're off 2 major interstates, but I don't see that many people stopping in Knoxville.
I mean, I don't know. We talked about like the Bassmaster Classic. There's a ton of people coming down to that. It's a home game weekend. Is it a home game weekend this weekend?
Last weekend was.
Yeah, I know we're at Alabama tomorrow. Duh. We got I mean, I don't know how many people commute in, but a lot of people do come to town and stay the weekend. Like, I'd be curious. I'm sure somebody knows the numbers on that. The percentage of an estimate of the percentage change in growth or a change in population of the city of Knoxville when there's a home game weekend, especially when we're good. I've been asking Scott and Jesse to do this because I know it's such a deep dive research thing. Not this particular thing, but I would love an economist look at the effective economic difference in a good and bad UT football team. Because I'll bet it's a big fucking number. I'll bet it's a huge number. I'll bet it's an uncomfortably large number. Like, we're going to be like, what?
I know some have talked about the economics of like the strip itself during good and bad seasons.
Yeah. I mean, I saw it when I was working down there and on some level, but yeah, I would love to see an estimate of the county as a whole on how much changes. Because I bet it's big, and I bet it's like I bet like if you did it weekend by weekend, it'd be noticeably different between like an Alabama game when Alabama was here last year, versus like Kentucky here,
yeah, or
Vandy here. Like, I bet those are hugely different in and of themselves. But then just kind of aggregating it out over time and a whole season's worth, I'll bet it's
I wonder how many fans would actually, like, if they didn't get tickets to the game, maybe they show up hoping to maybe find a scalper that's got some, but I don't know.
See, I don't think, but I think there are, I think that the other question I would have is of the 97,000 or whatever that are in attendance, how many of those are Knox County residents? I'll bet it's less than you think.
I was saying, I wonder how many people like from out of town, like from Bama, would come up. Not even tickets, not even wanting to try to go to the game.
In my experience, when I was on campus,
just to be there.
We would have huge crowds. Alabama was one of my favorite home games when Alabama came to town because they had some of the best fans. They were cool. They were chill. Not a bunch of fights. Not no fights, but just not a bunch of fights. Florida was the fucking worst. LSU wasn't great either, but there's definitely home games, and maybe not Alabama games, but there were definitely a handful of home games where we stayed full. Like a lot of home games, we'd empty out as soon as the game got pretty close to starting. Like kickoffs at 7:30, 7 o'clock, we'd clear out. Like traditionally, that was when we took our breaks. Like we would be working 10 a.m. to 4 a.m. and the only time we got a break was like half the crew got first half, the other half of the crew got second half, and then it was back to work for the rest of the night. But there are definitely a handful of games where we kept a decent crowd, not a capacity crowd, but a decent crowd during the game, mixed in with both local or both UT and visitors fans of people that were just here to watch the game, that just wanted to be in it.
Projector? I mean, you guys had a decent bit of TVs.
Yeah.
Yeah, the old big TV that you got from there.
Yeah, they had like 10 of those,
right?
And then a couple other ones. But like, I mean, it was a decent place to watch the game or whatever. But I mean, there is something about like there is something about being around it. Like I've thought, like I haven't gotten tickets to the game. I'm going to homecoming, but I've thought about just going down and hanging out in Market Square during the game. Just because there's something about being in it, even if you're not in it. That's nice. That's fun. Even if you're not a huge fan of the game, like Jesse was telling me a story a couple weeks ago about. I think he said he was in New York. Maybe it was when he was living in New York when he was working for the Times, and like the Yankees had won the World Series or something like that. It was like Game 6 of the World Series, and it was just like a Thursday or whatever. It's just Game 6. He doesn't really care about baseball, but he just kind of was. He was meeting somebody for a drink, didn't even consider the fact that this baseball game was going on. And so the whole bar is watching, it's like the whole bar is kind of half paying attention, but like fifth or sixth inning, everybody starts glued to it because they're up like 2 runs, but it's a good tight game. The other team's trying to make a comeback, all this kind of stuff. It's like everything stopped to watch the game. And then the Yankees win, they win the World Series again or whatever. I don't remember the details of the story, but it's that same thing. He's like, I don't even like baseball, but there is something fun about being in it when it happens. And I agree with that 100%. And I don't like baseball either, but like, I could see myself going to Nashville when Nashville hosts the Super Bowl when they get their new stadium built, and just being downtown Nashville somewhere on Super Bowl Sunday, and having a killer time, not even really paying attention to the game.
I wonder if CAT changes their bus system. That's my only thing. Is like, there's a game going on, I stay the hell away from downtown.
It is a traffical nightmare.
All right. I wonder if like CAT adjusts their routes for game day.
I mean, I know they do shuttles to different lots that are like further off. They do that for basketball games too.
But as far as like their regular routes, because obviously you get slowed down if they're anywhere downtown trying to go from point A to point B.
I mean, Saturday. I don't know what their general. I mean, hell, I don't know what their routes are at all anymore because they just redid them again.
Right.
But they don't run as much. They run half
but the
routes
hub's
on
downtown.
Right, but they only run like half routes on Saturdays anyway.
No, I don't know.
Like they don't run the full gambit tradition. Like I don't think. Anywho, speaking of UT and them being a profit-rearing enterprise, and that's what their whole goal in life is now. They've signed contracts now to do land leases for 2 properties being developed into dorm rooms, but they will be privately owned and operated dorm rooms who are leasing the land on which the building sits on from the university. So basically, the university is privatizing their dorm rooms, which you know me, I'm not opposed to privatization. It's cool with it. I'm cool with it.
But does UT own the other dorm halls that are on campus?
Yeah.
But this one would be different, but still be considered a UT
right,
dorm.
There are two dorms totaling like 1,800 beds, and there's a third one that's all but signed off on. That should be signed off on and be so like the 25. The year starting 25, the fall semester 25 is when these first 2 are supposed to be open. Which, just by the numbers, and I don't remember the very specifics, but it's something like currently in dorm rooms, the University of Tennessee has like 7,000 beds, 6,000 and some change beds. So just 2 of these buildings coming on are 2,000 more. That's a pretty significant number. Now, that being said, also, there are no dorms on campus that the University of Tennessee operates that are less than 40 years old.
Right.
So the thought process looking forward on this, so here's my prediction or whatever, is that if these work well and the private companies that are doing the builds and going to be managing the properties and stuff like that do well, then they're going to start tearing down existing dorms and letting a private company build the replacements. And so all the dorms on campus will eventually be privately owned, renting the land from the university. And but to me, this is a test of both that premise and how much shit they're going to get for privatizing part of what they do, which doesn't sound like much. So I think this to them is going to be a green light to do the entertainment district they're planning on down by the stadium.
I were wondering the other night if UT still had the requisite that if you're a freshman you have to stay in the dorms. Because with the housing the way it is, I was like, there's no way they're still doing that.
I mean, I know they've been like renting whole hotel rooms downtown, or like there's that hotel right off the other side of the strip.
They did one or two right off of Paper Mill.
Yeah, they've had a couple of entire or halves of hotels that they've been renting to then, then re-rent to students. I guess you pay rent for dorms. How does that work? You pay for housing, I guess is what they call it.
I've never stayed in a dorm.
I mean, it's housing. It's not included with your tuition. It's a separate cost, and it's on top of, if tuition's $10,000 a semester, it's $10,000 plus $3,000 a semester for housing.
Goodness.
But I think that's what they call it, is housing. I don't know how much it costs. I'm just throwing numbers out.
Right.
I stayed in Reese.
I thought it was included.
I stayed in Reese for a couple of years. It's all right, I guess.
Yeah.
It was semi-shared bathrooms, so it wasn't like a bathroom per floor. It was a toilet and a shower per suite.
Right.
Which a suite was 2 rooms with 2 people in each room. So you just had to share the bathroom with 4 people.
Right.
Well, 3 other people. But I don't know. I think it's weird. I have problems with it. Like it's a weird philosophical. Like, I hate the idea. If it's going to be if it's a state entity and it's supposed to have if its mission is supposed to educate the next generation of whatever, then why is it spending an ounce of time, energy, or money in the pursuit of making money?
So they can then provide more.
So they can prevent more assets and things that they can then turn around and make more money. Like that's the question to me. It's like, with the dorms, at least I get it. Like,
well, I mean, I would say their argument is going to be, if we have more money, we can put more money into this program or this program or this program. Or
we can lower tuition or not raise tuition as much as other schools are doing that don't have the same thing. I don't know. Like, because to me, it runs into my big issue with UT at large in the first place. It's like UT is too strong. It's too powerful inside the politics and function of the city of Knoxville, Knox County anyway, to me. And so, like, at what point does the University of Tennessee just become its own city?
UT Inc.
I mean, sort of. Like, I mean, it's funny, but it's true. Because one of the things they're talking about with this stupid footbridge is some of the property that they're looking at buying on the south side of the river is to build housing for professors and teachers and staff that works for the school. So now we have the product, which is the student that lives on campus, or that lives on property and who pays into the company, right?
Right.
So the product pays into the company, the employees pay into the company just to live and function within the company. How much, like, what else are they going to start swallowing up? There are. I mean, that to me is what's concerning. Like, if this entertainment district thing works well and they make a bunch of money off it, and then they go buy the strip up basically and take all those under their private functional thing and do their whole private partner whatever swap deal that they like to do, and like, they don't pay taxes to the city of Knoxville. So at what point does the city of Knoxville or the county be like, well, we're not going to send our police or sheriffs onto your campus anymore? You're not allowed to use our fire service anymore because you've eaten up so much of our property that we don't have enough taxes to afford to do it. Because it's ridiculous. It's long term and it'd be 50 years down the road or something like that, but it's certainly a possibility.
Possibly.
Like, if they could eat up enough that they would. I mean, that's what bothers me about the fact that the city is so on board with this stupid footbridge, is they're on board with something that's going to take money out of the city coffers, and nobody talks about it. Nobody seems to think about it that way at all. They're like, oh, it'd just be cool to have the footbridge. Like, that's a problem to me. That's a big problem. Well, I mean, nobody seems to be paying attention to it.
How many TIF programs are going on right now that those taxes aren't going in?
That's not functionally, that's not the same thing.
If you want to associate the university as a business that's not doing it.
Right. No, so okay, but the equivalent would be that how many businesses when the business goes to the city of Knoxville and says, "Hey, build me a thing for my business." A $100 million thing or whatever they're talking about, this stupid bridge is going to cost $81 million, something like that. Build me a $100 million thing for my business. And the city says yes. That's what the university is doing right now. Now, the university is going to pay parts of it, and the state's going to pay parts of it, and some other interested parties are going to pitch in.
Right.
But at some point, actual tax dollars that the city of Knoxville has collected are going to be, a check is going to be written from the city of Knoxville to the contractor or whomever was building this bridge. It's the same. I mean, that's sort of the same thing that's happening with the stadium project, except at the end of the day, the city owns the stadium. The city's not going to own this bridge. The university's going to own this bridge.
Right.
And so to bring in TIFs and pilots as a comparative is not really fair, because a pilot, at least I've gotten a better understanding of over time. A pilot, at least, is just, hey, that piece of property we collect $100 a year in taxes on. You develop that piece of property that up and put whatever you're going to put on it, and we would be collecting $1,000 a year in taxes on it once that thing is developed. But if it's going to help you get the financing you need, if it's going to help you save a couple bucks on this, that, and the other so that you can do the project, we'll just keep collecting $100 a year from you for 5 years. And then after 5 years, we'll start collecting the value. You're not losing money. You're not taking money out of the city coffers. You're just not adding as much in as you theoretically could.
Maybe so, maybe not. Maybe you had a different developer in there that was like, I'm ready to
Okay, but you're still not... you're not wrong on that, but you're not taking money out of. You're just not putting as much in. If your example is true, that I come to a piece of property and I say, hey, city, I'm going to develop this piece of property, but I can't quite afford it. Can you help me out in any way? Sure, we're not going to charge you the taxes on what we would for the first 5 years you're there. And then you come up right next to me and say, I'm going to develop on it right now. I don't need anything from you. They certainly ought to take your offer over mine. I agree with that 100%.
Right.
But you might not exist in the scenario. Or you might want to do something, but I own the piece of property. You don't get to build on the piece of property. Yes, please. You don't get to build on the piece of property because you want to. I own it. You could say you'll do whatever you want, but until you buy the piece of land from me, that's just not how it works. So I agree that they're probably a little bit more liberal with them, especially with certain developers, than they should be. But number 1A, bottom line is, I just paid all of our city property tax for all 3 businesses. I just got all those bills and sent them in nice and early because they're not due till February, but I went ahead and did it.
Knock shit out now where you can.
Yeah. And so I don't remember what the exact number is, but just for the sake of conversation, across the 3 businesses, I paid $1,000 into the city of Knoxville.
Right.
For that, for that property tax, for the city property tax, tangible assets, whatever they call it. Not a dollar of that $1,000 that I put into the city of Knoxville is going to go to you, to your pilot, for the pilot program you got on that piece of land. Not a dollar of that goes to that. The only way any of the dollars that I put in for my taxes go anywhere near that is that the city comes in and repaves the sidewalk after you get finished. Or, some other actual infrastructure part that goes around it to make your business more functional, and the people that work and have to operate around your business be able to function better.
Yeah. Well, maybe part of that, you can still understand how some of these developers, whatever, if they're just working just right there on the edge of not having enough money, they're like, I just don't have enough right now. Is there any way you guys can give me like 5 years to start paying? You're like,
well,
okay,
the other side
sure.
too, though. But the other thing you got to think about too is that functionally they don't have the money. Period. They don't have the money when they're doing the project. They borrow it. They're always borrowing money, which I think is a weird business practice, but whatever. Apparently that's the way you do business. But they're always borrowing the money. Like Hatcher Hill Properties doesn't have $200 million in their bank accounts.
Right.
And so when they want to do, like they're doing that one down there on Gay Street and Summit Hill, and that's like an $80 million project or whatever, when they want to go do that project, they're doing both sides, like they're playing out of both, they're playing out of both sides. Like they're, what's the phrase I want to use? They're burning both ends of the
Candle.
The candlestick, right?
Yeah.
Because on one side, they're talking to the bank, trying to ask the bank to loan them the money they need to do this project. On the other side, they're trying to get permission for all the different parts and pieces they want to do on this project, as well as potentially a TIF or pilot or something else to help them get through the process. And so when they get down to it, the bank says, okay, we see what you're building. Our team has looked at it. We see what we see what we think it will be worth when you finish it. We've looked at the Knoxville market for housing and commercial space and all that kind of stuff. You could definitely, there's definitely need for the residential, and you'll get those places filled up. The commercial might be a little hard to fill, but I think you'll fill the commercial up within the first couple of years. Math, blah, 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 blah. We'll give you a $75 million loan for this $90 million project you have.
I guess I'm just wondering what happened to the businesses that, built their own things.
Shit.
They didn't just look around.
I'll tell you, I know the
looking
answer.
for something that some developer has made. I see a building that I could probably maybe fit my business model into this development that's already there. Seems like they're developing something in expectation that something's going to come in. I'm like, what happened to the business? It's like, hey, I need to build a building. I'm going to build it right there.
Cheap money and the financialization of our economy is why.
I know we just got developers that develop cities.
It's not that we have developers develop cities. It's that the loan process is a different set of subcomplicated messes than it used to be. Like, it used to be that you went to the bank and borrowed money from the bank, and the bank got their money from the neighborhood.
Right.
And the bank had a responsibility to do a good loan and not have to worry about you defaulting on it. They would make sure that you weren't going to default on it. They would do everything they can so that they can get a good return for the bank customers. But they're also local people who care about the local community. And like, hey, I have my money in your bank, and they're talking to you about loaning this money for this monstrosity of a project. I don't want you to give them my money. Now, that's not necessarily something you can or can't say as a bank customer, but it certainly would affect the loan's outcome if everybody who had their money in the bank was like, please don't give those people our money. But there was some community to it. I'll bet you that Hatcher Hill borrows the $100 million to do this project they're going to do, that if it's a Nashville bank, I would be surprised. I'll bet you it's like a Mutual of Omaha or some Nebraska or so, because over there's some bonus for banking businesses because of the state regulations that they do or don't have in that state that we have here.
Possible, yeah.
And so it's like, well, what does fucking Mutual of Omaha give a shit about some building in downtown Knoxville? They have no personal interest in it. They just look at the numbers. They say the math's good. You're going to be able to rent this place and fill it out and do all this stuff and make this much money a year. If you can do what you're saying you're going to do, you're going to make enough money to pay us our loan back. So here you go. Not to mention that they're going to loan it to him for 5%. They're going to take it from the Fed for 3.5%. And at the end of the day, if Hatcher Hill fails, they're not going to pay the Fed back either.
I wonder how you look at the need of businesses that are looking for a particular, square footage of office space, retail space, etc. When a bank's looking at
right, when you want to pre-build a thing that you don't have a tenant for yet,
right?
On how I don't know, because I think that's one of those that it's kind of become standardized. Every strip mall and high rise or whatever, it's more or less a square or a rectangle,
right?
And
I drive around town, I see a lot of empty space, and I'm like, some spaces, kind of pigeonholed into what exactly you can put in there, but I see a lot of retail space in different areas that are there. Yeah. So if I was a bank, I'm like, you're going to build another strip mall? Like, there's so many other strip malls that have available space. Why are people going to all of a sudden fill out your 10 units when there's 50 units within 5 miles of your place?
Well, the question is, how many other buildings do you own that have multiple units? How many do you already have full?
Yeah.
Like, I would wager that there aren't many, if any, left in Knoxville that are strip malls that are owned by a person who only owns that one. I think you get down to it, it's like Hatcher Hill, Capilio, Holrob. I was blanking out on their name for a minute. There's only like 5 people. There's 5 businesses that own like all of the commercial space in Knoxville.
Yeah.
So then at some point it gets to a game of, well, we need to loan you money for this project because we need this project to be successful so you can pay us back for that loan from 3 projects ago.
Possibly, yeah.
Anyway, they're going to build that stupid bridge, private dorm rooms on private dorms on campus.
Yeah.
Which again, like philosophically, I don't necessarily really have a big issue with that. I'd be curious. I not just because they're new buildings. I bet there'd be better dorms than the existing dorms. Not just because of the building itself, but
I would hope so.
I would think they'll be run better as well.
I went into one. I can't remember what the name of it was, but it looked relatively new. But there was kind of a reception area on like the main floor, and like within that, I guess they had a couple like staff people that I guess were there. But there was literally like probably 30 to 40 like monitor screens that were all just I guess the security cameras throughout the place.
Yeah.
And I was like, this place looks really nice. I'm like, what the fuck is this?
It wasn't Reese, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, hell no. I remember where that one was.
I mean, they're cool. I mean, it was fine. It's a cool place to live, I guess. It's good enough.
Yeah, simple for what it was.
Yeah, I didn't really care. It didn't bother me. I would never go back. Like, I would have no desire to ever live in a dorm room ever again for any period of time. But
that's what I was made. They make them so shitty, so you do like leave and go out and frequent the other places away from.
Yeah,
get out of the strip. Don't want to sit in your dorm all day.
Yeah. It forces you to be a social. Well, I mean, we were the worst of it. We had my freshman sophomore year when I lived on campus. There was a feature that the university had that nobody else had yet. That actually made living on campus pretty awesome.
Oh, the high-speed internet.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. T2,
T1 connection.
T1. Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of hours on Napster. Just. My roommate, I don't remember. I don't know what a big hard drive was back then. I can't remember. It certainly wasn't more than a couple gigs,
if even.
But he had, I think he was on his 4th hard drive by the end of our freshman year that he had just filled from Napster.
Yeah,
just filled. Like, I think you could hit play on his collection that he took in, and it'd still be playing now if you would have hit play in 2021 when we were there.
It's very possible.
Like, I don't know how many hours he downloaded, but it was a lot. What else is going on? I'm less. No, I don't want to do that one. I don't know. Do you want to? I do kind of want to talk about the Israel-Palestine thing a little bit, but I just feel like it's going to get sour fast.
What you want to talk about?
I don't know. I don't understand. As per usual, I don't get it. Like, what? At the end of the day, what is Palestine?
I think it's in an area. I don't think they are. I think they have a flag, but I don't think it's an actual recognized territory.
State. Right. So, to me, there are only two options in logical, philosophical conversation about what's going on. Either Palestine is an apartheid state where they are a subjugated subset of a greater nation of Israel, where they have no rights, they have no functional equivalent rights to anybody else in Israel. They don't get to vote, or they have to have permission to even enter what is proper Israel and all that kind of shit. Or they're a separate nation.
So I think it already is to an extent. I think they have checkpoints when you go from
the
Israeli-occupied Gaza.
Well, that's a whole separate thing.
Sorry, West Bank.
Right.
Occupied West Bank going into Israel.
Right. Which both of them have this whole separate thing of where Israel is intentionally putting settlers into what is, I guess, technically Israel, but is the West Bank or is Palestine,
right?
To try to squeeze what's left of this semi-independent space inside their own country thing. Like, that's what I don't understand about it. Like, it's so. What I understand, at least, is legally speaking, it's not an independent nation.
Right.
Okay. But just back into the wishes and the wishes and farts or whatever.
Hopes and wishes.
Yeah.
Hopes and dreams.
Just back to that for just a second. But there's only two logical options that are happening. Either it's two states, which I know it's not technically two states, but it's two states that have a border, or not a border conflict, but a resources conflict, realistically, that continues to go on. Or it's one state who is completely imposing and subjugating a section of its own populace. Those are the only two things that can reasonably be happening.
You mean that's currently happening?
Yes. Well, that's been happening for as long as this has been a back and forth fight.
I mean, there's been a couple. I think it was Clinton It was Clinton or Bush that had like one of the first kind of like peace accords back in the 90s. I don't know what was agreed upon then.
Like part of the Clinton one was to at least to start looking towards a two-state solution. That's one of those phrases you keep hearing thrown out now. That it's a topic. It's like the two-state solution. Yeah. Israel refuses to give up their land, but they don't want anything from their land other than to randomly kill people that are on it. Apparently, that's what it seems like.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't understand. Like that's what I'm saying. Like I don't understand what it is. And
I think for years it's been a lot of like tit for tat, and it's just both sides kind of pointing fingers at each other. But I don't know.
Sure,
it's been ongoing.
And again, I don't disagree with
decades.
that, but I guess to be the apologist for a second at least, whether I'm not saying I necessarily agree with this or not, but be the apologist of it. If you are a quote unquote Palestinian living in Palestine under constant, at least some level of constant fear of Israel, what they call mowing the grass. Have you heard that phrase?
No.
So there's kind of apparently, I mean, and it's true. Like you go back and look at it, Israel intermittently, periodically, just starts bombing shit in Palestine. It's just got to make sure that they're afraid of us on a regular basis, kind of thing. So either you're a citizen of Israel who lives in the Palestine section, who is in constant fear of the parent state, and you have to ask permission to go into this other country to work. Your ability to get food and water and fuel, that's been the big conversation because Israel has already said they were cutting out all of that off. They have no access to clean food or clean water, food, or fuel. Their one power plant is out of gas. Apparently the doctors and nurses are drinking IV bags because they don't have any clean water. Shit like that. And so, I don't know. How long do you put up with that? How long do you just accept that is the fate of your life before you do something irrational?
I want to say it was within like a day or two. There was apparently Israel agreed to let Egypt be a conduit for aid to come into Gaza.
And then they bomb the roads that go that way?
I didn't hear anything about that.
Yeah. And Egypt, but it's like, okay, well, I mean, but Egypt sounds like, okay, well, that's cool for you to say, but we don't want them here either. We're not letting them in here.
Oh, they close their borders?
Yeah, Egypt has their own issue with it.
Yeah,
apparently there's like 100 trucks there's 100 plus like semi trucks of and aid workers that are hanging out in Egypt right at the border waiting to get in.
To go into Gaza?
Yes. And apparently there's also like
hundreds. They said Egypt has one of the borders, I guess, that goes into occupied Gaza. That goes direct into,
and like apparently the U.S. State Department told U.S. citizens living in Palestine to go to Egypt and we'll get you guys out. And they're sitting in some tents or some shit on the Palestine side of the border. And Israel has bombed the roadway and the passage point like 3 times since the event.
Yeah.
And so, like, again, the specifics of what's going on right now are kind of an aside to what I'm trying to get at least, is that, like, I don't understand. I've never understood that our close diplomatic ties with Israel in the first place. I'm not saying we should or shouldn't. I just don't understand it. Like, why is it important to us? Like, my dad's answer is always because if we're not friends with them, they're going to nuke Iran, which I don't quite understand why we think that's a problem. Well, we would nuke Iran if we thought we could get away with it too.
Because it would turn into a broader conflict. That's one thing they fear is what could be happening now. But
it's only a broader conflict issue with us because we're friends with Israel. Like, if we are not friends with Israel...
we also have other friends in the direct vicinity as well. I mean, we have close ties to the Saudis, Kuwaitis, Qataris.
Saudis is an Arab state, right?
It's considered an Arab state, I believe, yeah.
Okay. But they won't take any, like, that was one of the things I was reading about. There's been like conversation about where can we get these people that will take them? Egypt refuses to take them. Everywhere else they have to go through Israel, and Israel's not going to let them go through. Where can we get them to? Saudis said no. Qatar said no. I don't know what Iran said, but like all the major Arab states don't want these people either.
Yeah, I think Lebanon's pretty crowded as it is.
Right, which you're just going to send a bunch of what is it?
Hamas.
A bunch of Hamas people to go hang out with the Hezbollah,
and
see how that goes. It's probably not going to be a good thing for. I mean, as Israel, you don't want Hamas and Hezbollah to
they may have a mutual enemy.
Right, you're putting two enemies together if you let them do that. Not that they're probably not intertwined on some level already anyway, even though I guess Hezbollah is like fully funded by Iran and that's a well-known secret or whatever.
a well-known secret.
Yeah, I mean, like everybody talks about, like Hezbollah is a independent terrorist faction of Iran. Is the way I've always been described as how Hezbollah works. Because Iran wants to erase Israel off the map or whatever. Right. I get it. There's long history and the religious and all the crazy shit that it has been the Middle East since the dawn of humanity. Apparently, I understand that there's tension there that's constantly there and all that kind of shit. But I just don't understand what we were supposed to think is happening in Israel and Palestine as far as a functional basis on a day-to-day level, regardless of a specific flashpoint like we're in right now. It seems to me, going back, that there are only two options. Either Palestine is an independent state that is poorly run by a terrorist organization, or it is an apartheid state inside of Israel, where Israel does not let them be part of the greater community of Israelis. They are a separate subclass of people that don't get to vote, don't have the same rights, don't have anything else that a regular Israeli would have.
I don't think Hamas runs the Palestinian government, though.
I don't know.
I'd say it's more probably similar to like Afghanistan and the Taliban. They're kind of like recognized as an entity, but they're also kind of recognized as a, quote unquote terrorist group as well.
Right. They're inside of, but not part of, but some of. I don't really quite understand it either.
Yeah, probably something along those lines. I don't know.
But it's not like Israel. It's not like Israel is going to what is the political leadership of Palestine to be like, hey, we understand that this wasn't you, that this was this terrorist group that kind of works inside you because you can't take care of your own shit because you're poor because we made it so. Why don't we help you out so that we can together get rid of this thing? Similar to what we said we were trying to do in Afghanistan, whether that was the truth or not, I don't know. But theoretically, the idea was, we're going to go into Afghanistan and get the Taliban out of there, and then this new Afghanistan that is free of this
we're going to help you start a government.
It's going to be the democratic stronghold, the new democratic stronghold of the Middle East, or whatever the fuck it is.
We're just going to temporarily put in this guy that we kind of like,
right? And sucks and is a murderous.
Well, it's just never accepted by anybody because the West, they see it as the West installing somebody else,
which is what I think Palestine would see any conversation going that way happening too. Shut up. I don't even know how to turn that off.
Mute.
Here's the way to turn it off. Then that's just not on. But again, like I don't understand. I just don't understand. I don't. And then on top of like what the reality is on the ground of the relationship between Palestine and Israel at large, I don't understand that part and how we on the outside, air quotes, are supposed to look at what it is, because I don't think we look at I don't feel like it's not looked at as an apartheid state. I've never heard that phrase attached to it until recently with some of my more radical people.
Yeah, I don't even know what that would be considered. Last apartheid area I knew of was in South Africa.
Right. Which was an easy racist one instead of a religious one, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's still the same thing. Basically an apartheid state is you have a class of citizens that don't count. They're not slaves per se, but they don't have the same rights. It's a separate class of people that have a separate set of rules and a separate place that they have to be. It's a segregationist kind of thing. And that's what it seems like it actually is. And it's like, Israel for one reason or another wasn't allowed to kill them all sooner, and so for political reasons or whatever, they let them have an area of land, but just kept them subjugated over there. But we've never made a solution on it because this is 2.1 million people or something like that in a tiny ass chunk of land.
I don't know.
It's 2+ million people. I know that. It's one of the most densely populated places on Earth. But they're not their own country. They don't get to vote. They don't have rights and stuff like that. And so again, I don't understand. That's part one.
Yeah, I mean, when Israel was established in the late 40s, I don't know how they originally drew the lines. If even then they recognized that, and like much of the Middle East, you kind of have ethnic groups, I guess, that have been living in there for hundreds, if not thousands, of years. That have been like, hey, this is what me and my family and our forefathers before that have called like this area, like our area or whatever. So I don't know when they initially did that. They kind of had a section that they started calling quote unquote Palestine or whatever. I don't know when lines were drawn to make the Palestinian area.
Yeah, I don't know that either.
And then there was 6 Days War or whatever. So I'm sure some lines got redrawn then. They're like, okay, we fought for a week. You guys can have this area, and we'll stop shooting at each other for a little while at least.
But I mean, like, but even in that, like, legally, at least as I understand it, in theory, it's that the Israeli government is allowing it because it's easier just to draw the line here and keep you guys over there than it is to continue fighting about stuff. But you're not part of this.
But I would think legally, I
this.
mean, they have, like, you know, the nation of Israel. So essentially, this is our land.
Right, that's what I'm saying. And so,
right.
And so the question is, legally speaking, what is Palestine? It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's a group of people who aren't real people inside the government that they sit under.
I didn't realize how large, I don't know how many millions, but like the Kurdish population. Never heard much talked about till there was fighting going on in Syria. They're saying that's like I think they are the largest like group of people without a land. Without like a land of their own, essentially. The Kurds.
Oh.
Because they stretch across like 3 or 4 kind of countries.
So then the other part being the maddening headache part for me is like, and which I started to, and we kind of went back to where we started. So I don't understand what Palestine is legally speaking on the grand state, whatever kind of, you know, country, nation, whatever kind of thing. I don't understand that part. And then furthermore, I don't understand why why Israel is such an important relational partner to us.
I think part of it is, I think we were, you know, the Allied forces that helped establish it. So I think that kind of gave us the initial kind of link.
Right. I mean, I know like in the founding of Israel, the point, it was, you know, post World War II, the point was that this land will always be a land for the Jews where they are safe from any crazy anti-Semite that tries to rise up and kill us all again.
Yeah.
I know that was part of like the founding of Israel kind of thing.
Then I'm assuming, you know, in some point, at some of the conflicts, we backed Israel versus the Palestinians, where the Palestinians were probably backed by another superpower at that time, probably the Iranians. So then that kind of gives us a tie that we were.
Yeah, I'm sure Russia was in there somewhere
we
too.
Picked a side in that.
But
right.
Again, but on a day-to-day level, like what is it? And I know that in the coldest, most absurd and soulless terms I can put this in on purpose. Why do I care? What does it matter to me? I don't want anybody to die, so I'll get that part out of the way on the front end. I'm not hoping for people to die and kill each other. That's not my favorite thing to see around the world.
Right.
But why does this matter to me in the $25 billion they've already committed to sending over or something like that? We have two carrier groups in or on their way to the region already, meaning we have soldiers within, you know, whatever. Like, it matters to me that we have citizens, I guess, technically. Maybe, I don't even know if that matters to me, to be honest. That we have U.S. citizens in the region. That's, I don't know. Not sure how I feel about that one. I do think it's the responsibility of our government in a time of crisis where two groups are fighting each other and some of our citizens are nearby, that we do have some responsibility to do the best we can to get our citizens out of there.
Yeah.
Not to interject ourselves into the conflict.
But otherwise, we should just be like, I don't care.
I mean, to what end? Yeah. I mean, it's the same thing that you got all pissy with me all the time about the Ukraine argument, too. Like, why does this matter to us? I mean, at this point...
for the most part, what?
Go ahead. For the most part.
I think for the most part, you know, it's that... I don't want to call it fear, but I mean that not wanting to anticipate another broader conflict. So having some kind of like stabilizing relationship in conflict areas like the Middle East that have always been very conflict ridden, and trying to keep it somewhat stabilized so it doesn't erupt into broader wars that then bring in other powers. Because we are.
But it seems like, especially with the Israel one that we're talking about right now, it seems like what we are currently doing is enticing other powers to get involved instead of deterring them from doing so.
How are we enticing?
It seems like our support of Israel and Israel's decisions on what they want to do is pretty much where Iran's red line is. Iran's red line is that if Israel sends ground troops in, then Iran's coming. And we are providing material and financial support to Israel so that we can support their armies. And it's like, well,
I don't know what exactly.
At
we're,
least in
we're
the calculus,
supplying.
at least in the calculus for Israel.
I think we're only supplying humanitarian aid, but I don't know.
Prior
I don't
to-
know what's in it.
I mean, prior to this specific event that kicked off however long ago, like
10 days, 11 days.
yeah. So prior to this specific event, or I'm sorry, let me take it back. Prior to the Russian invasion of Ukraine, Israel was the top receiving aid nation, military aid receiving nation from the U.S. for decades. But in military aid specifically, not in humanitarian aid. But
Right.
Israel got more weapons or money for weapons or money for their Defense Department or whatever from the United States than the United States spent in any other country at the same period of time until this Ukraine thing started.
Okay.
Okay, so our material aid to whatever their ends are seems to be what is enticing Iran to want to get involved.
I could see that.
So the premise of, well, let's back up a second. Forget that part of it. Let's say we don't send a strike carrier group and our president doesn't go over there and talk to them and, whatever and all the kind of shit that were going on. So let's say we just don't care. We didn't care in the first place. Why
should we care if a war broke out?
I'm not saying we shouldn't care if a war broke out, but at what point, why do we feel the need to be involved in it? Yeah, I guess. Yes, I understand the oil conversation. That's a big one. If we just let the Middle East do whatever they want to do with each other and kill each other off all the time, gas would be more expensive. That would suck. But
Well, it's not just gas. I mean, we have a shit ton of stuff that is just quote unquote petroleum products.
okay, I'm throwing out the most generic, stupid one being gas.
Right.
But yes, you're right. Plastics get more expensive. All sorts of stuff gets more expensive if they're in war and not producing oil for us to buy.
Like, I think that might have been part of the oil embargo of the early 70s. I think it kind of been tied to conflicts that
Some
were
shit
going on.
over there.
Or maybe just
Again, okay, so that's it. We're gonna
I think that's
get
part of it. Yeah.
involved in a weird war about some
Well,
line
it-
that doesn't really exist
Because that bleeds into the world economy.
because of our economics. So it's about money.
At times, yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's other things involved in it, but I think that's one part of it, yeah. That isolated instances don't stay isolated. Case in point of Ukraine. Like, I don't think before this anybody realized how much wheat. It's like 40% of the world's wheat comes from Ukraine.
Right. But it could very easily be 42% of the world's wheat comes from Russia. And what does that make a difference to some village in Africa that's buying wheat from Russia now instead of Ukraine?
Because it raises the global world price on it.
I mean, not if Russia just came in and took it and kept making. I mean, why would we assume that Russia would raise the prices?
What? Oh. So you're going down the scenario that Ukraine is now occupied by Russia and then owns the wheat, and then why would they raise the prices?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm just saying, if that's the thing is that a free and independent Ukraine is the only way that we have wheat for the world.
Because they have the power to do it. Why would they not?
I don't know, because they want to sell it. It's still a market,
They're still going to sell it. People still want it.
right? But it's still a market, and so if you overprice it, it becomes problematic.
Why? People still got to buy it.
They don't have to. They haven't.
I guess they could
where's
go in
all
and
the-
steal it. I guess.
I mean,
Where else are they going to get it
that-
from?
That's an option. I don't know. You figure shit out. We're ingenuitive people.
We haven't done it yet.
I know, it's kind of sad. Probably because we're too busy fighting over shit instead of figuring out ways to do stuff.
True.
I mean, that was kind of where I was about to run down the whole fucking petroleum rabbit hole for a second ago. It's like, maybe if we would have let the Middle East do whatever the Middle East is doing, we would have spent our time and energy developing electric cars 50 years ago instead of just now making it a big deal.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, so again, forget all this the history and whatever, but like on a strategic level for the United States, is it good for us to be dependent on their oil?
No. Even though we are the number one producer now.
Well, I don't know if we're the number. I thought we were the number one exporter.
No, I'm pretty sure we're the number one producer of oil now.
Cool, go us.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the whole thing. Maybe
Though I'm not sure like the grade of it.
I don't
I want to
understand.
say we have.
I know the Venezuelan oil is dirty.
Well, I think a lot of what was coming out of like Canada, like what do they call it, the oil sands, or I think it's like the oil sands or something. Like it's still useful petroleum and oil, but I don't think it's like the high quality what it's needed for certain products.
Well, I don't know. Like I guess the broad strokes of what I'm trying to get at here is I'm not opposed to like the idea that world economics are important, but it seems to me that the more global economics get, the more problematic the economies become. The more
necessarily no.
The more dependent and the more issue driven. I mean, what's the number one problem with the U.S. economy? Number one problem with the U.S. economy is you don't have jobs because all the jobs are in China and Mexico and shit. And so while the benefit of getting cheaper goods is a bonus to those who can afford it, how many people don't have jobs and can't afford it? Was that a net strategic bonus for the United States? I don't think so. Not historically speaking. You know, we talk about that dream age where the guy worked in there.
I still think part of that, I don't know if it's just like the cost of going up, but I mean, we outsourced a lot of our corporations instead of keeping the American jobs. We were like, corporation said, I can make more money if I move my factory, move the call center, whatever, outside of here.
Now, I think the call centers have...
So, I mean, is it...
I think the call centers...
Would you say the globalization changed that, or was that... I would call it corporate greed, saying, hey, I can make a hell of a lot more profit if I do this.
Okay.
It wasn't... I don't think it was ever like, we're going to go bankrupt if we don't do this. I think it was more so of... we can make a hell of a lot more profit if we do this.
I don't know. I think globalization did it. I think post World War II and the reconstruction of Japan, when Honda started importing cars into the United States, and the trade agreements that we had with Japan, getting Hondas in, it was the big kick in the ass to the U.S. car market.
I think it changed the car market. We finally did start making a little bit smaller, more gas-efficient cars.
Right. And
because they were like, wait, a lot of people are buying Toyotas and Hondas.
Right. Toyotas and Hondas came over and were more fuel-efficient, smaller, and cheaper.
Yeah.
And the U.S. car manufacturers had to figure out how to do that. And in the attempt to chase down at least the cheaper part, they figured out that Asian labor was cheaper or Mexican labor was cheaper. They did the math backwards. You go over to Japan and look at what they're doing. They say, okay, we see the assembly line stuff. We know how to do that kind of thing. We see the logistics stuff that you were shipping these things across the biggest ocean in the world.
And still making
a profit and still making them way cheaper than our cars. So the shipping isn't a problem anymore. We always thought shipping was probably the biggest problem. Well, I can go build a factory in China where I don't have the EPA regulations. Not that I'm saying the EPA is not important and environmental stuff isn't important, but China doesn't have the same level of EPA regulations. I mean, they don't have an EPA period, but they don't have the same environmental regulations. I'm sorry, let me word that better. They don't have the same level of... they just don't have the same level of regulations in labor or environment. So we could take advantage of these poor people, pay them less, not have to worry about polluting the air and stuff that much, or at least not have to pay for it and blah, 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 and then ship that shit over here and we can make a competitive price car to these Hondas and Toyotas that are coming in. Now, is it a chicken or the egg conversation? Probably. Some U.S. car manufacturer might have figured it out without the Honda thing already happening, but it happened. And that happened because of adjustment. That happened because the United States, rightfully so, felt kind of bad for what we did to Japan at the end of World War II. And we're very interested in trying to keep a positive relationship with them, even though we nuked their ass. I wanted to say, hey, guys, we did it because we had to, but let's be friends. How can we help you get back on your feet and do that kind of stuff? So, I mean, realistically, our great relationship with Japan to this day is based on that. We nuked the shit out of them and said, hey, guys, we're sorry.
We had a decent little occupation, but also we aided in the rebuilding. Was that the Marshall Plan? Or was that just Europe?
I don't remember. Marshall, yeah. And so anyway, but I mean that's the long and the short of it to me. Now again, I don't know, honestly, I don't know the exact history well enough to say whether it wouldn't have happened anywhere or is already happening in the U.S. car market or not.
I mean, I'd say at that time, I mean, a lot of people are influenced by advertising. And, you know, we were pushing bigger, muscle cars still in the 60s and 70s. So there wasn't really, I mean, I would say they created an artificial market of it and kind of an artificial desire for these bigger, more not necessarily luxurious, but mostly, what we would call boats these days. Yeah. Definitely much larger cars.
Yachts.
So I mean, I think for most of the American public, had no concept of a smaller compact car to an extent because it was never available. It was nothing that was really put out there as a hey, this is something you could use or need. Until Toyota and Honda came in, and they were like, wait, there's other options.
Right. I mean, I do think that was something too, and I do think there was a significant design difference in the Japanese cars of the era compared to the Americans in the just the smaller part.
Yeah, but you still have European car manufacturers that have tried to come to the U.S. and just have never been able to get a foothold whatsoever.
Yeah, but I mean, some of them like Fiat's here now all of a sudden.
Yeah, because they're owned by Chrysler, Stellantis. I don't know. A lot of them are turning into like big megacorps.
Yeah, but I mean, again, I think I will agree with you at some level that there was a corporate greed aspect to it. But as I've argued many times on here, is like I'm never going to argue against corporate greed. I think corporate greed was problematic. I think greedy people. I think there's a line of greediness that gets problematic. But I think at the end of the day, if you're the top level CEO or whatever, blah 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 Inc., your job is to make as much money as you can for that company. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. Doesn't mean to be unethical. You don't have to be unethical to do it, but that's your job. And especially when you're staring down the barrel of, well, these import cars are a real challenge to what we're doing. And for us to continue making money the way we're supposed to be making money for our shareholders and all that kind of stuff, this is the way to do it. So either Ford folds or we move a plant to Mexico. And it's not that it's not that it's a clear A/B today, but over the span of time it would have been. If Ford was a 100% U.S. made car today, Ford would be one of the smallest car companies in existence. If it was 100% U.S. made still, there's no way they would have survived with the variety and popularity and all the different shit that they had over the late 80s, 90s, early aughts.
I think there's a way.
I think. I mean, I'm trying to think. Like the only other car maker that I can think of was AMC and the DeLorean.
Talking about small car corporations.
Yeah, the Tucker, but that was before that.
Right.
Was going down. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like a 100% U.S. manufactured car company through ever,
right,
since the 70s or whatever. But I mean, like 80s, 90s, aughts. I mean, until Tesla came on, and for a while there, Tesla was 100% U.S. made.
Was it really?
Yeah, but until Tesla came on, I mean, there's Volkswagens are made more in the United States than a Ford is anymore. Like
100%, they were making the batteries, everything.
No, batteries.
Or they were being the quote like assembled in the U.S. type stickers we could see on everything.
Yeah, I mean, I like frame and body was made here. Like all the component, like most of the components were U.S. made except for the batteries.
Okay.
Obviously, the computers and the transistors and all that shit came from China or Taiwan or whatever too.
Right.
Because there's only so much of that you could do, and I'm curious about the CHIPS Act thing to see if we can do it. I don't know that we can. I don't know that the U.S. labor market can do affordable chips. I just don't know how that's going to work. I would like it to. I would like to be able to have a factory here in Knoxville that made computer chips that would functionally and economically compete with the shit coming out of Taiwan. I just don't see it happen.
I don't see how we can't.
So anyway, the whole globalization of economics thing started because I think there is the assumption that the globalization of economies is a good thing. I don't know that it is. And that assumption that the globalization of economies is a good thing rolls into, well,
what's the
wars and borders matter to us, even though they're halfway across the world.
What's the inverse of globalization?
I mean, 100% isolationism.
Right. And how many countries have survived in that state?
I mean, I don't know of one, but that's because they don't want me to know them. I mean, I don't know. Like, what's who is actively isolationist? Switzerland?
No one.
They're neutral.
There's literally no one. It is almost impossible to survive as a purely isolationist country. Even North Korea, as isolation as they are,
Yeah, that's a good
still
example.
has their friends.
Yeah. But it's only
And
because they're developing nukes. It's the only reason they have friends.
They're
They
heavily
piss us off.
heavily reliant upon China for food.
Sure. And again,
And many other-
I don't disagree that the idea that trade is important and a requirement of function. But I think there's a big difference. I think there's a
How do
it's
you
a spectrum.
how do you differentiate trade and globalization?
Oh, I guess it's a spectrum. There's a spectrum between like fully globalized and isolationist, and I think the idea. I feel like we're just down this barrel run that the more global the better. I don't like same thing with our politics in general. There's a right or a left. There is no middle. That's kind of that's how I feel. I guess that it's functioning. Is isolationism is too far that way. Globalism is the only other answer. It's like, well, there's some middle ground here. We can.
I mean, how many trade partners would you consider till you get to the point where you're considered a globalized? Because I mean, I would think 2 or 3, you are a globalized nation.
I don't know. To channeled AC, we're gonna have to look up the definition. I'm not gonna say you're gonna have to give it to me. But
Well,
we're
I'm just
gonna have to
wondering-
understand what the definition of globalization.
You were the
is.
one that's saying that you're against this greater globalization, and I'm trying to understand at what point a country is or is not a globalized nation.
I would say like most of Africa, I guess, is probably not a fully globalized nation. At least what's left of Africa that hasn't been infiltrated by China. I don't know.
And
I
the U.S. and Russia.
Sure. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I just like I on a military strategic level, our dependence on foreign items to function as a military is problematic to me. And on a base economic level, our dependence. Now, having trade relations and dependence, maybe that's a better way to put it. Maybe that's the line in my head for what the difference in globalization and a world trade partner is. Globalization is a dependence on that Ukraine is so specialized in the production of wheat that if Ukraine has a failed wheat harvest, we all have to deal with the consequences of it. Globalization is a dependence on everybody else without any chance of operating without them.
I don't think there's any one nation that can survive and have all the products themselves.
I agree.
There's some-
But to have only one nation that you get most of their products from, or one region of nations that you get that you get one particular product from, having no way to deal if that one nation, for whatever reason, decide they don't fucking like you anymore. Like you brought up the oil embargo thing a little while ago. A group of nations decided that they were pissed off at us for whatever reason. I don't remember the backstory of it, but they just said, "Hey, you know what? We're going to stop," and they still do it to this day. OPEC does their thing where they just like, "Hey, we're going to stop production for a while. We're going to slow it way down."
Right.
Why are you slowing it down? Because the price of the barrel of oil is too low.
Right.
It's like, well, what does that make a difference to you? Well, it doesn't, but it really makes a difference to you.
Well, they're making
Business
less money.
To what?
They're making less money.
I mean, that's because
They're still producing the same rate, but
that's on the assumption. Well, that's not on the assumption. That's on the reality that it is a finite good. And that's why they want to keep the price of oil up, because it is a finite good. There's only so many barrels of oil that they can mine or they can tap.
Sure.
And so but if it's not, you're not necessarily making less money. You're just eventually making less money.
No, they're still pumping out the same amount, but there's more supply in the market, so the market value starts to go down. They're still producing the same amount. They're still producing 1 million barrels a day or whatever. So they are, in fact, making less money because they've still got to sell those barrels of oil that they're producing.
Right, just for less than what they were selling them a month ago or whatever. But
right, so they are making less money.
No.
How is this a no?
Well, I guess oil is probably not a perfect example because I guess if you can get oil out of the ground, you're going to make money. But it is a market. You make what you can sell it for. You're making less than you could have made, but you're not making less money.
Sorry. Okay. They're making less than they could make.
Right.
So they want the price to go back up so they can continue to make
more.
Make a little bit more, but they're not making less than what they were making last month. They weren't receiving less than they were receiving last month.
I don't know. I didn't follow that last sentence, but that's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
The point was that they wanted to get the price of the barrel back up, and part of that was that they wanted to punish us for whatever. It was a diplomatic issue and an economic play on a diplomatic issue.
Probably, yeah.
And so, I don't know. I don't know. Again,
we're idiots trying to understand.
Sure. I don't understand. I don't understand the need for it. Let's figure something else out. We're the biggest, most bad assassination on the planet, apparently. That's what I've been told.
We're number one. We're number one.
And we could bully. And I guess to me, like, and I think you agree with me on this one. I think to me that we play the bully game. Like we've been like, well, we're the biggest bad assassination in the world. Do what you're told, or else. And we've gotten away with that for a while, and we've kind of stopped getting away with that. And I think that's what I'm frustrated with, because I grew up on this notion that was the truth, and here we are. And I feel like I feel like we're just getting fucked because our old bully tactics don't work anymore, and so we're trying to buy it.
Well, I remember seeing something on like the 80s when they were talking about, kind of us ending the Cold War. And then one of the things that kind of turned kind of Russia on itself was, just our culture in itself, our rock and roll. Like that's really what, other countries kind of wanted to see. They saw what was going on in them. Yeah. They saw stuff like that, and they were like, hey, we don't have all this. We've got
Levi's
two brands of cola that we can buy, and that's it. And I've got two brands of toilet paper I can buy, and that's it. And don't have much music at all, other than kind of state music or kind of state pop and blah blah blah. That it wasn't embargoes and blah 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 that ended the Cold War. It was our culture and other countries wanting to be a little bit more like us and saw the freedoms that we had.
Right. I agree. But how does...
Sans bully tactics.
Well, but I mean, okay, maybe I portrayed my perception poorly in the sense that it seemed like it seemed like the moral high ground was easy to make in arguments of the U.S. versus the U.S. versus the Russians. We have the moral high ground. We have the freedom. We have the Pepsi and pizza, or whatever it is. And so you didn't need the bully part. But it doesn't seem to be the truth anymore. Maybe it was never the truth in the first place, and I just didn't understand it. But we don't have the moral high ground. Like I don't feel like we have the moral high ground. We don't have the moral high ground. The only thing we do have is theoretically the money. But and when I say we have, it's our money that we're doing what with. And how does that like again? Oh, I don't want to do this because you're gonna get mad at me, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Like, what is the point of a government? Like, what is the point? Like, the point is supposed to be to help us function as a society, to work together better. It's not to make us all rich per se, but it's at least to give us the opportunity to be so.
What would you prefer?
What would I prefer? I would prefer at least to be able to understand why. That would be a start. Give me I can't for the life of me, and I know I'm an idiot, but I can't for the life of me understand why we're spending $100 billion over the next however many years on Ukraine.
So just free for all. So
why is it our responsibility? Who else is going to do it?
I'm talking. You're asking what the point of the government is. How would you like to have a nation without a government?
That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying the fact that the fact that we have a nation and that we agree that a government needs to exist. We agree that a government needs to exist to supply a certain number of ends for us, because at least in the United States, the theory is that it's governed by the people. That whole thing,
right?
It's not that they're above us. The idea is supposed to be that the government is subservient to us. That's why we use the phrase public servant, right?
Yes. They
work for us, the public servant. So, the idea is that they're supposed to be working for us. So, make it make sense to me why I pulled the calculator out. I don't know if I did the math right, but I think it's like $330 or maybe $3,300 is coming out of my taxes. Well, out of every individual's pocket this year, that's going to either Ukraine or Israel. Make that make sense to, I don't know. I don't know. Make that make sense to anybody that we know who's can't afford their car insurance so they can keep driving. Can't afford this, that, and the other. It's not a huge number. You're right. $330 a year. That's not that big a number. But that's
don't fucking put words in my mouth.
My bad. Fine. Say your fucking words then.
No, I don't have words for it.
I
I don't have an explanation for why the government does what it does and what they spend their money on.
But yet you sit here and you defend it all the time when I go out on my rants about how stupid I think it is.
Now, I've tried to explain it in that there are a lot more things that we spend money on. You like to pick certain things, and I don't blame you for it. You know, I think you could point your finger at many of things that we spend money on that you could calculate and like, I spent $50 a day just on this that our government went and did.
Sure, and
subsidizing corporations, subsidizing farmers.
But any of the subsidy stuff, whether it's welfare state or the corporate welfare state, any of that stuff isn't going to hold a candle to our military spending.
What's the math on the Department of Defense budget every year?
That's what I'm saying. I don't know. That's part of what pisses me off, I guess, more than anything about this Ukraine and Israel situation, is that this isn't part of the defense budget anyway. This is on top of the defense budget. But you're right. But again, you know.
But you want to pick this Ukraine thing.
Sure.
Just at the moment, I know. Just at the moment.
It's a hot topic right now. Yeah, we could talk.
We've talked about it.
I'll shift a different version on the Israel one. We have 2 carrier groups. What's a carrier group? It's at least one submarine. They won't tell us how many there are actually there, but there's at least one submarine, one aircraft carrier, like 4 battleships, and then like 5 or 6... that
are just always accompanying a carrier.
Right. There's like 4 or 5 like supply style ships or whatever like that. That are all part of a carrier group. I would say a carrier group combined assets are probably approaching, if not surpassing, a couple $1 trillion each. And I don't know how many total carrier groups the United States military has.
Right.
But we're building new ones all the time and then retiring them and doing all that kind of stuff. Like I understand the need for some things. Some of these things to exist on some level, but no, it doesn't need to exist at that level. But the argument that you're giving me, whether you mean to or not, or at least what I'm hearing, is that, well, we're going there to keep Iran at bay, so Iran doesn't get involved in this, and that or at least that we're at least showing presence to try to keep it from getting out of control and turning into a bigger mess.
No, I don't agree with us sending a carrier group over there.
But we are involved in it. I mean, that's what you were saying earlier, that we are involving ourselves in it to try to keep this at a minimum and not let it expand into more things. Carrier group aside.
I meant it more as we're giving interest in the group and trying, Biden going over there trying to talk to the Israelis. I don't think he spoke to anyone on the Palestinian side. I think he was going to, and then...
No, he was supposed to go to Jordan, and then that hospital thing happened, and then he left.
Yeah.
He was supposed to go to Jordan, and he talked to the Egyptian prime king, whatever the fuck his title is.
Prime Minister?
No.
Prime King.
I like it. I'm gonna use that more often.
The Prime King.
Prime King. You're right. I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. The $100 billion to Ukraine thing that I get all bent on shape pissy about and whatever like that is a drop in the bucket of the totality of the expense issue. But to me, it's like, if you set a budget for yourself and you keep making excuses, well, it's only $1. It's only $1.50. It's only $1. It's only $1.50.
I know it adds
because
up.
There's a good reason for it. Because I can justify it X, Y, Z ways. Well, all of a sudden you don't have a budget anymore. The budget doesn't matter because you're just going to justify yourself out of it and spend it anyway. Whether that's go into debt or not save like you want to do, whatever it is to your whole budget thing.
Right.
But that's and I understand government budgets don't work the same way as people budget works. Don't fucking come after me about that kind of shit. But not you, just the general public that's not listening to this anymore. Because apparently I'm an anti-Semite because I'm even remotely okay with Palestine being an own state or something like that. That's a whole separate thing. Anyway.
Huh?
I didn't need to bring that up. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. Yeah, we can talk about that off air. Whatever.
I'm not an anti-Semite is the moral of the story. I don't care. I don't have any particular pro or con to any person's or their religious or whatever leanings. I'm agnostic at best.
Yeah.
Or apathetic maybe. That's the better word. But yes, and it rolls back into the fight. Like we can roll back into the speakership fight about it because Tim Burchett's our rep, and he put his foot down on because he's a budget hawk. And it's like you can agree or disagree with him or his move on McCarthy or whatever the fuck it is, but at the end of the day, he's a budget hawk, at least rhetorically, and when he gets a chance to functionally. And I can't get mad at that.
That's when they read a couple stories on that there were, a number of the GOP that were against funding Ukraine but then are now want to fund Israel. They're like, we got to support Israel. It's like, wait, you said we shouldn't need to be spending money on getting into foreign affairs.
Which is still fucking weird and crazy to me, because there's a whole bunch of the GOP that thinks that the Jewish space lasers are real.
Sure.
And it's like, well, if the Jewish space lasers are real, why are we funding Israel? Because they're going to be the ones that control the Jewish space lasers. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Like, again, but that's part of what I don't understand about our relationship with Israel. Like, it is a bipartisan issue. Everybody agrees that we need to make sure we support Israel.
Right.
Democrats, minus 3 Democrats, who are all Arab Americans, Ilhan Omar, the
Tlaib,
yeah,
Rashid Tlaib,
yeah, Hakeem Jeffries, and Cortez. No, she's Hispanic. I'm sorry, that was accidentally racist. I don't know what she is.
Are you sure Hakeem Jeffries is?
I'm not, but I thought he was one of the ones. I think he's one of the ones that came out that actually publicly said that some pro-Palestinian thing. Yeah. There's not many. Moral of the story. There's like 4 or 5.
I've seen there's a big generational divide now. Even GOP and Democrats. The younger generation is more supportive of Palestinians, at least just kind of being people.
Yeah, I think it goes back to that early question of we don't understand the. I just don't understand. I don't understand the line that exists.
It's a long sordid history.
All right,
we want to focus on the most current.
Well, it's all right. We happily ignore it for years and years and years, and now it's time to pay attention because a bunch of people got killed.
We're quick to forget, some of the origins of the story.
Right, which I think, but I think that's the same on the Ukraine story too. Because I don't you question I need to find it and send it to you. But my understanding of the post Cold War history of Ukraine and the U.S. and Russian involvement in what's been going on in that government for decades has been a pretty obvious precursor to what we're watching right now. Anyway, that's a separate thing. I'll find it for you. We'll read it and we'll talk about it in a future date.
Sure.
But back to, I don't think anything local on. I'm mad at my schools. Kids got their grades today.
Yeah.
Speaking of budgets, not being ready for things in my budgets. Stupid promises of paying them for good grades. Fuck. Jackasses. Being smart.
That's right.
Oh, they don't get it from me. I promise you that. I got to talk about the UT stuff. Some new housing projects about to open up. That's it. I'm continuously mad at the city for their idiocracy. I emailed them today and said, "Hey, just want to check in, see what's going on. I was kind of waiting to hear back from you guys on whether I could do the soapbox or everything." And the reply was, "Did you fill out an application for this?" And I went and filled out another application and said, "Yes," and I just did another one too.
Just in case you didn't get in the last one.
Right. When I was thinking about it, like the precursor to the whole the first email in this email chain was the one where somebody else in her office had emailed me, asked me some questions about the event I had planned. And so it is, yes, I did. I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know. I'm so close to giving up on that thing, and it's it's almost 6 months away, and I already feel defeated.
Yeah.
I just don't think I can pull it off, and it's like there's no reason I shouldn't be able to pull it off. But it's just like right out the bat, I'm already fighting with the city on it. I'm already fighting with the other people that are part of our group, trying to put it together because I can't do it. I'm not going to do it by myself. I could,
right?
But I'm not going to do it by myself.
It has no reason should you.
And it's like, well, I don't know what you guys like. I'm exhausted with it already, and I haven't even really gotten started to do the real work yet. And it's like I just don't know if I want to do it anymore. I don't know if I want to do it anymore. Fuck it. Like I'm really it has crossed my mind. Like I would really like to be in a little bit better place. That piece of land we keep talking about somewhere out in the fucking woods somewhere. I'm real close to just be like, fuck it. Selling this house, buying a piece of land, and moving my family into a tent out in the middle of nowhere.
I would say forego the soapbox derby. Maybe try to set up something else that's a little bit easier.
I agree. The
But you have
soapbox
to get
derby
less permits or whatever for them. They're like, hey,
But I mean, that's
and then maybe you can make some connections, figure out, hey, how the hell do we put on a soapbox derby?
I don't know. I've got those. I've got
Okay.
a dude in Oregon that's been doing it for 20 years that I've been going back and forth with. He's got all sorts of stuff for me on how to set it up, what kind of insurance you need, all that kind of stuff. He's great. I've got another one that's a youth company that they go around the country and put them on for kids.
Yeah.
But they've been helping me out, giving me some information, some data, some rules kind of stuff, some really like the real like paperwork parts of it for contestants.
Have we ever done one in Knoxville?
I don't know.
So you have to talk to those people. They're like, how the hell did you do this?
I mean, the thing to me is, I hope we haven't, because the thing that's the catch, that's the hook to me. The hook to me is
first ever.
Not the first ever per se, but it's not every fucking weekend. It's not a home game for UT football.
Right.
You don't get 6 or 7 of them a year. You get one a year. This one thing, it only happens once. And it's very particular and very specific, but it's also very fun and exciting and easy. Not for me to put together, but easy as a spectator. But it's easy to go, hey, it's Soapbox Derby weekend. Let's go.
Yeah.
You know, like that kind of thing. Like, I mean, like Boomsday was. Boomsday to me, like that was the thing that was like the signature thing to Knoxville to me. Boomsday was the signature. Not World's Fair Park, not UT, Boomsday.
Yeah.
Because we made a big deal. We made a big fireworks deal holiday out of a holiday that wasn't really that big a deal.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes.
Labor Day!
Because it's the wrong weekend. Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Because it was like, you can go anywhere and do a 4th of July. Like, anywhere you go, you're going to be close enough to go see a good 4th of July.
I always thought it was kind of like the beginning of the school year, because it always happened within like a week or
Right.
two of school starting.
And the last couple of years they did it. They'd shift the UT football schedule shift around, and they would do it like home game weekend, and it would make it into a whole weekend thing, where it was Boomsday, home opener. You know, it was just a massive party weekend. UT signature, Tennessee, Knoxville. Here we are. This is what we do. We like to party, play football, and blow shit up.
And wasn't Boomsday just like the Sunday before Labor Day?
Yeah, because it was on Sunday so that you could sleep in on Monday because you didn't have to go to work.
Yeah.
You know, so it'd be home game Saturday, Sunday, Boomsday stuff. Actually take the day off Monday, and then go back to normal life on Tuesday. Again, but to me, like what made it cool is that it was a different version of, and it was exciting. It was excitingly different, and I like that. And that's kind of why that's why I've leaned into the Soapbox Derby thing, because, you know, like the other one that I would like to do, because I think Knoxville could pull it off, would be the plane, the paper airplane, not paper airplane, but like the glider thing. Red Bull does them. Where like
like the super fast planes?
no, it's like you so you have a platform that's a certain height above the water, and the contest is how far can you get your glider to go.
Oh yeah,
The unpowered whatever, and you have to ride it.
Right.
And so some people like build these big elaborate things that just fall like a rock, but they look cool or they're hilarious or whatever. But then there's like the actual competition, the people that are serious about it, and I think, but again, that's the same thing with the Soapbox Derby to me. I want to have racers, and I want to have show offs. I'm gonna have a best car part of the competition. We're gonna have a panel of esteemed people whom get to vote on who has designed the most beautiful soapbox car. But again, the Red Bull actually does Soapbox Derby races too.
Yeah.
I thought about reaching out to them about it, but I don't really want them as a sponsor. I really don't like their beer cum soda. It's not my thing. I don't want to support that. Hitler was into that shit. So, anyway. Hit me with it, friend.
There's not much great. A $1.4 million speeding ticket surprised a Georgia man before officials clarified the situation.
Clerical errors aren't funny.
Yeah. Apparently it was just a, what do they call it? A placeholder, not the actual fine.
That's actually kind of funny then.
Damn, he's doing 90 and a 55?
And so the guy that set up the software for their ticketing computer said if you don't put a number in, it's automatically going to default to $1.4 million.
Yeah, let's see here.
That way you notice it before it goes out.
See, it
Right.
reflected a placeholder that was automatically generated by e-citation software used by the local recorder's court.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Actual fine cannot exceed $1,000 in addition to state-mandated costs.
Right. And so the point of the placeholder was in there so that you would catch it before you send it out the person who's stuffing the envelope or something.
Ah.
That to me, that's the idea. If you're the software guy saying, hey, I'm going to set this thing up for you, and it's going to help you make less mistakes and stuff like that. And one of the things it's going to do is if you forget to actually fill in this blank, it's going to put a ridiculous number in there, and you're going to notice it. Because what you don't want to do is send out a 0. Hey, buddy, here's your ticket. How much is it? $0. So I'm going to put a ridiculous number the other way. And then it didn't do its job because nobody noticed it, and they went ahead and mailed it out. It's kind of funny, though.
Yeah.
I take it back. Clerical errors are funny. That's it? That's all you got is a bad ticket?
There was a couple. I guess they got
some
couple got trapped at the top of the Eiffel Tower and got married, but it's not really a weird story.
Got trapped?
Yeah, they got stuck up there, I guess. Yeah, stranded on the Eiffel Tower.
And there happened to be a Justice of the Peace hanging out up there, too, and got stuck with them?
Let's see here. Police arrested a man climbing the Eiffel
they
Tower,
got stuck.
leading visitors being temporarily stranded at the summit.
Oh, so they met because they got stuck up there.
I guess they decided to get married, I guess, with time to kill.
Huh. So they didn't get married up there, they just decided...
It was a Washington, D.C. couple. Who decided during the wait to get married.
I was thinking maybe it would be a cool version of that story would be they got stuck up there and in waiting to get down, they met each other.
Oh, no. And then got married?
The conversation. And then get married while they were up there, but that's how they met each other. Like, that's their origin story as a couple.
Saying they decided...
That's adorable. That's a fucking rom-com I'm writing right now.
Gotcha.
Be a really boring rom-com. Oh, I'm so bored. We're stuck at the top of the Eiffel Tower. Yeah, me too.
What are we going to do? I guess we'll just get married.
Name? Oh, hi, my name's this. What's your name? Oh. What's the drama point where they almost break up? He gets suicidal and threatens to jump off the side. She's like, yeah, whatever, you suck, asshole. All right, last call, man. One more?
This is the weird now. Yeah. I was saying, but I did find I was reading or listening to a podcast. They had a story that was really interesting. It's a multi-part that's kind of talking about guns and whatnot, kind of looking at the history and kind of the regulation of and how we came to where we are now. But one of the ones they were talking to like surgeons and whatnot, looking at the medical side of it. It reminded me of talking about RFK Jr. because they were talking about the actual RFK assassination, and they were asking, if in this day and age would he have survived? And they looked at different presidents and whatnot. But one thing I found astounding, they did a study kind of comparing to medical know-how even in the late 60s to now. And they estimated that there would be 3 or 4 times as many homicides if we had the same kind of medical technology we had just 50 years ago.
So not gun tech, but med tech.
It was one thing they were looking at, kind of like the statistics of homicide rates and whatnot.
Ooh, I'd be curious.
And they were like, has the progression of medical technology, has that made some homicides go down? Just the fact that we're able to save lives a little bit easier and have more ability to look for hemorrhaging and whatnot.
So what you're saying is, by so many people shooting each other in America, we've got better doctors.
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, maybe to a small extent. I mean, there are some doctors that deal with it more often, so you would say they are that much more adept at treating gunshot wounds, and they're then able to pass along their information. They're I
would argue that there are some things that have been developed in the attempt to save people who have been shot by guns that are functionally used in other places. Inside medicine. I mean,
as far as just stopping bleeding and different other circumstances, yeah.
I'm sure there's I'd be sure if you go back historically, I would say, you go into war medics and trying to figure out how to them trying to figure out how to do shit in the battlefield and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, maybe we should not just cut the arm off. Maybe we could see if we can save the arm.
Yeah. Nah, I like the...
How'd you get shot in the finger? Cut it.
Cut him off with the wrist.
I mean, leave him his elbow. But other than that, cut it off.
Cut off with the wrist, yeah.
Give him a stick to bite on while you do it, too. And a shot of whiskey. Only one shot of whiskey.
I think the man deserves the whole bottle if he wants it. You're going to cut his arm off. But that's it. That's what we're talking about, cutting off arms. That's the end of the show. Nothing says fun like amputation. All right, that's the show, guys. We did it. We had a good time. We talked about things. I may understand things less than I did yesterday, but At least I got to say some things out loud. Don't hate me for my opinions on all sorts of crazy shit. We're Almost Agreement at gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube. Go to the website, almostagreement.com. Check out all the cool stuff we got in there. Go to your favorite podcast provider. You can find us there. And, yeah. We may or may not be here next week. I got a hunting trip maybe planned. AC's got a fucking hot air balloon show that he wants to go to instead of hunt, but we'll see. All right, bye, everybody. Have a good night. See you later.